Now I'm going to make you co-host. Co-host. There you go. So funny to see Stephen Lawrence with long hair. Yeah, I found a good clip. So now the trick that I have to do, I'm streaming currently. I'm on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And I got to remember to switch between my cameras on OBS and also share the screen at the same time. So I got to do those two things, which is annoying. Yeah. And I think that that's the reason why it's always handed off to somebody else to do this stuff for GTW, because they do it relatively seamlessly. I'm going to be fumbling through this, being it the third time I try. Right? Exactly. Where's LD when you need him? We don't need him, though. We don't need all of him. I can use a part of his beard. I'm okay with that. There's a lot of frame dropping. This is the first. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the discussion's going to be even, it's going to up one notch from last week. Yeah, I wasn't expecting Doc to go as deep as he did. He got lost, and I love it. I love it because it reminds me exactly what happened with Soylent Green. So when I did Soylent Green, was same thing. Yeah, yeah. All right, now I get to switch over. Great, I got that. All right. What? Hey, how's it going? How you doing, Doc? How you doing tonight? And have you seen any movies this weekend? Okay. Okay. I haven't heard of either of these movies. Wow. Okay. Kind of crazy. I guess what's his name continued. David Carradine continued to do the car movies for a while after Death Race, eh? Oh wow, that sounds like fun actually. Yeah. I got to see a weird Italian movie. I don't know if it was good, but the concept is brilliant. It's about a kid who was born with the ability to fly. Like there's a scene where the mother has the baby and he just floats up and just floats up. And it's about the society sort of like keeping him down. Like the grandmother was like, "You can't show this to anybody," and telling the mother, and like the mother sort of like keeps the kid down. And then as he's growing up, like the kids don't want, like the teachers don't want him to fly and show the kids that he can fly. So they put this like backpack with rocks in it. And then as he grows up, like he turns into this sort of circus freak, and they put him on TV and they make him do this big round of stuff. The title of the movie is called The Man Without Gravity. And in Italian, it even means more so like the man who's not important, like the unimportant person. So, like, great concept. I hope they remake it. The movie is it's a very small and sort of weird, kind of like art house pick. Yeah. Yep. Well, anyway, on tonight's agenda, we have a short presentation. I'll be giving the insights about the production. Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. See, I have to do all of the switches. There we go. Is that better? Yes. Okay. So yes, on tonight's agenda, I'll have a short presentation, and then I'll to give you some of the insights about the production, some of the themes explored in tonight's film. Then we'll watch the movie, and then we'll have a post-movie discussion. And tonight's is it's quite a. Am I recording? I'm not recording. Damn it! Did I? Dang it! Thank you. Probably gonna have to do the intro again. Oh, no, that's not it. Am I recording? Share. Where's the record button? And there you go. Voilà, merci, c'est bon. Okay, I'd like to foster a You're on the Couch with Me vibe. As you can see, everything's being done live, so it's pretty cool. So if at any moment you feel like making a comment, an obvious joke, feel free to do so. These movies some of them are cheesy, some of them have that right exact moment where you gotta make that joke or make that comment or make that observation like, hey, that can wasn't there in the last shot. So this movie's rated R. It's got a little bit of violence, a lot of bit of violence, drug use, but nothing crazy. If you've watched a UFC fight, you've seen worse, much worse than what's in this movie. Also, all the comments are unmoderated, so if you don't appreciate the occasional off-color joke, curse word, or spoiler, this space might not be for you. If you like any of the information I've pointed out and would like to know more about filmmaking, I have 20 years of experience in the business, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about script, editing, whatever it is. Please go to uptfilms.com and sign up for one of the edit-alongs. And if you really like this event, please promote it. I'm trying to make this a sustainable model. So subscribe to any of these socials. And for the love of God, man, share to your heart's content. The content is pretty good. Anyway, I think so. I'm sure you guys are still here. So yeah, share. At the end of this meeting, I have a questionnaire. Please fill it out. We want to make these things better, so we appreciate the comments, and we read them all the time. So, tonight's movie, Rollerball, 1975. The director is Norman Jewison. Writer is William Harrison. Stars James Caan, John Houseman, and Maud Adams. Rotten Tomatoes and the various scores, you can see that it didn't do too well. It was average. The budget for this film was $5.5 million. Adjusted today is $31 million. Box office, $30 million. And it sold 16 million tickets, which is reasonable. This is a good movie. By the way, I just wanted to point something out. I don't know if you can see the little inflation rate thing down here. Last week we did another movie from 1975, and it was at 473%. So in a week we gained 5 points of inflation. Just letting you know, everything's doing good. In 2002, Rollerball was remade, so this is the one we're going to compare it to. It had a whopping budget of $100 million, and its box office didn't even make a third of its budget. Isn't that amazing? Aren't you happy you didn't go see that movie with Jean Reno? Oh, I love him. He's a great actor, but the choice of his movies are no good, no good. 3.9 million tickets. Okay, so the movie was based on a short story called The Rollerball Murder. Hey, I have a challenge for you, Doc. Could you say Rollerball Murder 5 times fast? I hate you and your working mouth. Mine doesn't. Rollerball Murder, Rollerball Murder. It just gets all. Anyway, it's written by William Harrison. It was first appeared in 1973 issue of Esquire. It's a short story, and the short story is way, way darker. Balls are heavy bowling balls. They're shot out of cannons at 300 miles per hour, tempting the players to possible suicide or their hand exploding to just get an edge over their opponents. There are 1 to 15 people that are killed in every match in this short story. Maybe because of the shotguns. There are also shotguns in it, not in the movie, but in the short story. And there's also more backstory. So basically, there's a debilitating war between Europe and Asia, and it resulted in private corporations being able to create city-states. Those corporations having their own war of attrition resulted in a total of 6 global enterprises now running the entire world, which now have Orwellian names like energy, food, luxury. A little bit on the director, Norman Jewison. As you can see, he's got a great career. He directed 44 films in his lifetime. He's also the founder of the Canadian Film Centre. Do you know the Canadian Film Centre, by the way, Doc? This is sort of like the first time I came across this. I didn't know this was a thing. Yeah. Okay, well, he's the founder of that. He's also known for directing films which address topical social and political issues, often making controversial or complicated subjects accessible to mainstream audiences. He began his career on CBC TV in the 1950s. This is the original CBC logo, isn't that cool? I kind of like it. As an assistant director, a writer, and producer. Then later in that decade, he worked for NBC, where he performed the exact same tasks for Your Hit Parade and The Andy Williams Show. And he got his big break when he directed a production of Judy Garland's Comeback Special with Frank Sinatra and company in 1961. Here he met the actor Tony Curtis, who suggested he should direct a film. And oddly enough, Tony Curtis starred in that film. In 1962, he directed 40 Pounds of Trouble. So the production on Rollerball, the location that they found was the Olympic basketball arena in Munich. The reason why they picked this arena was because it was the only near circular footprint which you could find in an arena. There was no other at the time that had that. And they basically, it's just this one location. They didn't shoot in any other locations. They sort of just changed the set around for the different countries. And to tell you the truth, I didn't even notice that there was supposed to be a stadium in a different country. They all sort of looked the same. So they didn't do much to do that. Also, the Energy Corporation building in this film is actually the BMW headquarters in Munich. So it's actually really cool looking, very futuristic even today. Kind of like that. For the film nerds, this movie was shot in 35 millimeter and then transferred to 70 millimeter. So one of the reasons why it looks grainy and a little weird is because of that particular transfer. The grain sort of like inflated a bit. Also, the lighting must have been really difficult because you're lighting an arena. You can't really use like spotlights. So like I think a lot of the grain comes from the fact that it's like low light situation also. Here's a quick, yes. It was one of the locations that you'll see in the movie. Okay, the quants. Okay, all right, we'll do that. We'll probably look that up while we're watching the movie and have something to say afterwards. Yeah. All right. So quick behind the scenes about the sort of you know, scenes, gadgets, the stunts, and the stuff that's done in the film. Can you guys hear it?
Foot. Remember, they had guys with rifles in there that started shooting toward the end. I said, that's just not going to work.
We were lucky insofar as we spent the first, I don't know how long we had, say the first 12 or 16 weeks, we did nothing but shoot the games. And it was only as we progressed that we started making rules, because in the beginning we just shot roller skates and bikes and goals and bloody heads and war, and we put it together, but then realized that we've got to now make this make sense, you know.
It's very difficult to invent a game.
You know, you've got to pick up that ball now. You can't just stuff it into the goal. They've got to make a couple of circuits.
So I think it was the roulette wheel and the idea of a pinball machine that gave us the idea that the ball could be fired and it could be pretty lethal. And if that could be fielded with a glove and then put in a goal, we had to have a goal.
Norman added a lot himself to the game. He put the hook on the back of the motorcycles, for one thing, which carried the skaters. And I thought, you know, what an ingenious idea. They can get more speed up this way.
They had to grab onto that motorcycle. It was actually a spring off a bike that stuck out, and the loop was attached to the spring. So even when guys came in and grabbed it, it had some give to it.
We knew that the skill of driving and handling the motorcycle, we needed the top motorcycle stuntmen we could find in the world, and most of them were in Los Angeles.
Not very experienced in motorcycles at all, but I rode them. I don't think it took anybody over there that was really one of those motorcycle races or anything, because all you had to do is just learn to keep it up on the track, pull the guys, and just use your head with it, you know.
And now it was time to start getting the team together. And it had to be a combination of stunt guys, guys that could skate, guys that could ride motorcycles.
We all started practicing. You know, I happened to be on a picture in New Mexico. It was a Western. Well, we would go down at night and then this roller rink, and we'd rent some skates, and we just started skating again, you know, the music and everything. It was really easy. Everybody was having a good time just skating. So, shit, this will be easy.
Nobody knew anything about skating.
I thought he was kidding when they brought him out and they were holding him up, you know, and he was going like this and everything. I thought it was a joke. No. It was real. He couldn't skate.
There was a European roller hockey group, so we tapped into that group.
And then I brought some more English guys over, and there were hockey guys.
Then there was a thing called roller derby.
Roller derby guys, and those guys were really good. I mean, that was their life, skating. So they had skates that were different, you know, and we were looking at what they had.
Mostly we had to take stuntmen and train them.
You guys had never done that sort of stuff.
No, but
that's something all these guys had to learn how to do. They were fabulous at what they did. We'd rehearsed here for, what, about a month on flat roller rinks, you know? And one guy, even before we got out of here, fell and broke his hip. You remember that?
Somebody broke their leg.
These were all big athletes. These were all linebacker types. They all had a great rapport with each other, the stunt players. And they took those stunts very seriously and had to. They were very, very.
So kind of cool. The
They
rest of that will be on the
celebrated
website when
actors,
I set up the blog. So I was going to do, the theme was probably going to be roller skates and the history of roller derby and all that type of stuff, but I thought it would probably be more fun to do corporatism. The movie takes place in a world where global power was boiled down to 6 corporations that ran everything. Rollerball, basically, like was mentioned up top and also in the ads for this film, Rollerball basically shows what a post-2030 agenda world would look like, possibly look like, essentially. The population is concentrated, so in the movie, the population is concentrated in corporate city-states called transportation, food, communication, housing, luxury, and energy. They essentially represent the pillars that the real-world globalists want to complete control over. If you think about it and everything that's been happening within the last 2-3 years, 4 years actually, you can see these actual things come out. Like we're focusing on the food, they're focusing on transportation, they're focusing on housing, focusing on communication and all that type of stuff. Having mentioned Agenda 2030, let's take a quick look for context so we can create some grammar to understand what all that is about. So, Agenda 2030 it was adopted by the United Nations, all the member states in 2015. They proposed 17 sustainable development goals called SDGs, so Sustainable Development Goals. These goals aim for peace and prosperity for the people and the planet. The goals are actually really virtuous. Doc, do you want to end world hunger? Do you want to end poverty? Clean water for all?
I think those are great goals.
Yeah.
Those are excellent goals.
I see nothing wrong with that, right? Some of the methods to achieve these goals are a little bit questionable. So these 17 goals are broken down into 169 targets that governments need to abide by, and they create legislations and various other ways to restrict or tax or whatever to be able to achieve these 169 goals. Critiques of these targets range from not having quantifiable environment goals, or the goals themselves are not quantifiable, not addressing limits to economic growth, that they promote neoliberal and business interests, so that they focus specifically on business interests and nothing else, or Western neoliberal interests, that they create a bureaucratic smokescreen for business as usual, so basically doing the same thing, but just because you got that stamp, you're protected legally. Expanding taxation, empowering the IMF and the World Bank to have access to financial information. Would you like to have the IMF in your bank account, Doc?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, get that motherfucker out of there, right?
Mother Weffers.
Yeah, Mother Weffer. That sounds like Elmer Fudd almost. Mother Weffer.
That's Cliff High.
Oh. And they also strengthen regulation on private businesses to achieve public goals. So more regulations for small, tiny businesses. Some people have noticed that the outcomes of of some of the work that has been done since 2015 seems to be the direct opposite of the actual stated goals. In the methods chosen to achieve the goals are actually creating more poverty, more hunger, yada yada. I know that we had the COVID pandemic here, but you can see that this thing seems to be this just dropped and been and I'm sure this is going to keep going up with all the kinds of, especially here in Canada, with the carbon taxes that they're adding actually, next month, 17 cents, I think, to each gallon of gas.
It's outrageous.
To each
It's
liter of
outrageous.
gas. Yeah. And this is hunger. This is 2005 right here. And this is 2022. We're back to 2005 numbers, guys. We're making people hungry. Pretty awesome. In 2017, the Rockefeller Foundation asserted that the key to financing and achieving the SDG lies in mobilizing the greater share of $200+ trillion in annual private capital investment flows towards development efforts. And philanthropy has a critical role to play in catalyzing this shift. Enter the World Economic Forum, or the WEF as we also know it. The WEF is an international governmental organization whose stated mission is improving the state of the world by engaging business, political, academic, and other leaders of society to shape global, regional, and industry agendas. So industrialists and government all together. In 2016, the WEF posted a video. This video made a couple of predictions. They openly announced that they were an intent to remove private ownership rights. While they didn't specifically announce nation states, the end of nation states, they predicted that the fall of America, they predicted a fall of America from global dominance and the emergence of a new power block of nations to rule the world. They also predicted the end of meat eating for the general populace. Now, why meat eating? Why industrialists can predict that kind of thing? We probably might know. I'd say go refer to Soylent Green. That's probably a better film and a better presentation that'll explain all that type of stuff. On my website, uptfilms.com. In 2019, the WEF and the United Nations signed a strategic partnership framework in order to jointly accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Developments. So a group of industrialists and a government or a world government organization got together and said, we're going to accelerate these goals. So if we look at this objectively, opening communications between corporation and national government is technically a good thing, right? This is the history of humanity during peace times. Communication leads to compromise. Compromise leads to solution, right? That kind of thing. Everybody's happy. We're making a deal. Things are good. Except when you hear about how business and governments usually collude with each other, you start to worry about who the governments, literally the representative of the people, the governments, are actually representing. Are they representing the people? Let's hear about how this group of industrialists are represented in government.
When I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
Wonderful.
When I mention now name.
So, corporatism can also be defined as plutocracy. Plutocracy is defined as a society that is ruled or controlled by people of great wealth or income. Even Adam Smith complained that England's merchants and manufacturers were the principal architects of economic policy. Their interests are so carefully attended to by politicians that government is just a shadow cast by big business, and that the attenuation of this shadow will not change the substance. In other words, electing politicians critical of business will not eliminate business power to shape government policy. We, as history shows, also have noticed that any foreign government, from the likes of Chile to Greece to China to Vietnam, any of these governments ready to disrupt business as usual for the corporatists are usually faced with massive economic disruptions and military coups. When their reform pose great threats to the profits and privileges of capitalists. In our civilized neck of the woods, we don't need military coups. We can figure some stuff out with studies. In 2014, a Princeton study found, and I quote, "The preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near-zero statistical, non-significant impact on public policy." And when it came to the economic elites, the business interests and people who can afford lobbyists, they were much more successful at influencing government on how government voted on various laws and subsidies. So big business's power ultimately derives from the power that it wields over the economy itself. Some might call this structural power. They control most of the crucial resources on which society depends, including investment capitals, so that would be jobs and loans, as well as food, transportation, medicine, healthcare services, countless of other things. And using tools like something called a capital strike, business can influence governments by simply refusing to invest in a government project until government cuts taxes, loosens environmental regulations, hiring rules, or whatever the hell they want. They say, we don't want to do the job. We're not going to bring you any money if you don't do this or do that. So we just spent a little bit of time speaking about the big businesses if they got together and created a cabal. How much control can any of these companies have individually? Here's one of the most commonly known examples of one of the largest Western companies and the power it yields. This documentary will also be on the website.
BlackRock is an investment firm that controls a huge number of shares in some of the largest companies in the world. They have a total of $10 trillion in assets across the globe. That's an amount equal to half of America's total GDP, controlled just by one company. It's easy to dismiss such a powerful company as all-out evil, but the truth is, BlackRock doesn't own these companies or even own shares of these companies. Their clients own the shares. BlackRock simply manages them. That's not to say that BlackRock doesn't have any influence on these companies. They definitely do. Because they control such an incredible amount of their stock, it's possible that companies want to keep in BlackRock's good graces, so they don't pull their investments. Now, while BlackRock might not be the evil company some people make them out to be, the truth is, there's still something very shady about them. Their hypocrisy. BlackRock was founded 34 years ago by Larry Fink, and he grew the company from $5 million in value to $8 billion in just 5 years, primarily by managing money invested by large institutions like pensions, university endowments, and substantial fortunes invested by the uber-rich. Today, Fink serves on the Council on Foreign Relations and the World Economic Forum, commanding the attention of business tycoons and political leaders around the globe, and his company is on the cusp of consolidating so much power that it could essentially control the world.
Let's talk about the speed with which we are watching this market deteriorate.
The worst day on Wall Street since the crash of 1987.
The 2008 financial crash turned out to be an incredible opportunity for BlackRock. It secured an uncontested contract to control many of the banks that had collapsed. That gave Larry Fink, who was already incredibly wealthy, even more power, and a direct line to the American government. The same thing happened in 2020, during the early days of the pandemic, when the government called in BlackRock to protect the Federal Reserve from financial fallout. Periods of economic uncertainties like these were key to BlackRock's rise to power, and as the famous saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility, and BlackRock would like you to think that they are being responsible. In the summer of 2020, while the world was angry about the murder of George Floyd, BlackRock came out with a statement saying that companies had to serve a social purpose, and that they would be giving every company an ESG, or environmental, social, and governance score. Companies that promised more diversity in hiring and leadership or offered environmentally friendly policies and technology received higher scores than companies that didn't. Although this concept had been around since 2004, BlackRock became the loudest proponent of ESG investing in 2020, and in all honesty, it worked. Before this statement, ESGs were mentioned in far fewer than 1% of earnings calls, but by May 2021 that number rose to around 20%, and it has since remained the fastest growing segment in the asset management industry. People are more concerned about the environmental and social impact of companies, and that's a good thing, right? Socially responsible companies get the upper hand in an ideal world, yes, but we all know that the world we live in is far from ideal. While there's been some positive improvement, the main result of BlackRock's ESG statement has been a massive surge in companies participating in practices like greenwashing, pretending they're more sustainable, diverse, or responsible than they actually are. It's also exposed the hypocrisy of BlackRock itself, because while it claims to champion ESG investing, the company remains the largest investor in fossil fuels and war profiteering, and maintains a pretty friendly relationship with human rights violators. And it's not just BlackRock, the second largest investment firm in the world, Vanguard, is guilty of the same technique, promoting ESG investing on the one hand, but on the other, unwilling to stop investing in oil and gas companies or pull out of companies with questionable human rights practices. We see this time and time again from BlackRock. They do something that seems like they're moving in the right direction in the eyes of the public, but behind the scenes, they're unwilling to tamper with their investments, even if it's for the greater good of society. Take climate change, for instance. BlackRock says that climate risk is investment risk, meaning that investing in companies that aren't creating policies to help address climate change is a risky move. In 2021, BlackRock actually did do something about this by helping shake up the board of ExxonMobil and installing new members who promised to take action on climate change. Previously, the oil and gas behemoth was responsible for 2% of the world's emissions. Now there are new self-imposed mandates to help reduce that over time. This is a great move by the company, no doubt, but the fact that it's still the world's single biggest investor in fossil fuels makes this feel more like virtue signaling than actually trying to make meaningful change. And the hypocrisy doesn't end there. As mass shootings continue to end lives in the US, BlackRock has spoken out against gun violence and said that gun manufacturers should do more to protect the lives of the American people. But who's the largest investor in gun manufacturers? You guessed it, BlackRock. The investment firm holds a 16% stake in Sturm Ruger, 15% in Vista Outdoor, and significant percentages of other manufacturers just like them. BlackRock says it talks to these companies about improving safety, but so far, it's unclear whether or not there's actually been any policy change. Outside of America, BlackRock's US Aerospace and Defense Fund has billions of dollars invested in major weapons contractors worldwide, like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and General Dynamics. They're supporting these companies that then get huge Pentagon contracts and use taxpayer money to engage in violence and war around the globe. Often, these weapons are supplied to foreign governments in the name of peace, like Saudi Arabia, which received weapons from the US government and used them to indiscriminately attack civilians in Yemen during years of civil war. Funding this spread of war and an increase in nuclear weapons shows that BlackRock constantly skirts its own commitment to human rights. So does its engagement with authoritarian governments. BlackRock is an investment.
Don't want to be too black pilly on this, and I'm not going to be spending any time on the solutions, but the solutions to absolute power seem kind of slim, and I hope we have a very good discussion about this afterwards. Here are a couple of examples that me and Doc came up with while researching the film. Become ungovernable. I mean, that's an easy one. If enough of us stop playing their games, they have no power over us. So
Work for Gandhi.
Yeah, work for Gandhi. Well, Gandhi just sat there.
In India.
Well, I mean, I guess that's
Gandhi
being ungovernable.
himself, but he worked in India, or
yes.
seemed to.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, we can discuss that too, I guess. I feel like we should aim to set our own development goals, and just have it as a symbol of some sort. Like first one could be like free money. Like what does like a liberty, like a free as in freedom, like freedom money, right? What does food look like under our thing? Like we don't want hunger, obviously, but like what does actual like nutritional food or something along those lines? And we can discuss that afterwards. And also building parallel societies. It sounds super hard. It is. But our basic needs are actually kind of simple. We need food, we need shelter, we need community. So if we can do that, we don't need much more. The internet is fun, but who cares about their glitzy cities? We'll be able to raise animals and go back to horses or walk or whatever. It sounds terrible. I don't know. We'll talk about it. I'm sure. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Like I'm sure we'll have a really entertaining discussion after this. So, like I said, all these are lofty goals, but I believe that it might be the only thing to get us out of an insane societal cycle. It seems to happen every 100 years or so, even faster now. That's it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're about.
So lame. It's wonderful.